Some people would rather want to take high dosages of melatonin orally instead of a suppository or transdermal plaster. They think, taking it orally would be more handy. They believe, all you would do is, just take that 3 milligrams melatonin you have for sleeping and multiply this. But does it really work like that? Well, let's dive into this a little deeper. There seems to be quite some confusion about this. What do the experts say? What is the problem with that? Let's first look at what Dr. Edinger has to say on this topic. By the way, we consider him the best expert in this field since he has studied this topic right alongside Russian space scientists in Russia. It was right there where they experimented with high dosages of melatonin that led to the achievements of their astronauts having made the longest ever space trip, unmatched by anyone until this day. Dr. Edinger insists that high dosages of melatonin cannot be taken orally because it will be destroyed by the first pass effect of your liver within about 1 hour. In this video we will be talking about how to take high dosages of melatonin for anti-aging. Usually melatonin is being taken about 3 milligrams in the evening for better sleeping. Well, high dosages of melatonin are also taken in the evening, but for both better sleep and anti-aging. In the following you can see Dr. Enrico Edinger. He speaks about taking 300 milligrams of melatonin. It cannot be taken orally, because the first pass effect of the liver will get rid of only 10 milligrams within a few minutes. Then we have Dr. Klinghardt, who seems to be also a huge fan of high dosages of melatonin. He uses it for many diseases and he also states that it cannot be taken orally. Have a listen.
Here's the big one I wanted to almost spend the last few minutes with, melatonin. Melatonin is completely misunderstood and underrated. Melatonin is the principal antioxidant used in the brain and in the central nervous system. It is not glutathione. Yeah, it's not all the antioxidants that people talk about. It is melatonin. And melatonin is produced in every cell in the body, but in the brain the predominant place is the pineal gland. But our whole gut microbiome, when it's healthy, produces about 400 to 4,000 times more melatonin than the brain does. But it does it at noontime. And so there is a German researcher who heals pretty much any neurological disease just with one tool, and that is melatonin. But this is not 2 or 3 milligrams. This is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 6,000 milligrams. The ALS, we give 6,000. With most the children get 80 milligrams. That's a working dose. Most adults need a lasting dose of about 300. It's the anti-aging tool for the older folks here. I notice that a few of you are over 60, which I'm always happy. I'm still one of the oldest here in the room, I think, so I can, and compared to the other speakers, I look a lot wiser because I lost my hair, What do these young whippersnappers know that still have hair? They haven't worried as much as I have, they don't. So we give it transdermally. So the transdermal melatonin is given between dinner and bedtime, an hour or two before sleep time. Does hardly change your sleep. Most people don't feel any change initially. But what it does is phenomenal. Those of you know a little bit of biochemistry, the worst thing that happens in inflammation.
Next we have another expert on high dosages of melatonin. His name is Dr. John Lieurance. He says that orally taken melatonin is only 2.5% absorbed. Too good what he says about his own HRV, heart rate variability, while on high dosages of melatonin, and what the experience of the young lady was right from the first day and thereafter of using a high dosage melatonin suppository. Have a listen.
So I kind of want to, one of the things that we've really been excited about is this emergence of the conversation around HRV, heart rate variability, and how this is really a good indicator of general health, and how people need to be paying more attention to this. You've talked a lot about melatonin and how that impacts positively the HRV. I'd love for you to dive into that.
Yeah, let's do that. So, what I find fascinating is if you look at the graph of melatonin, so melatonin and age, right? You have so much melatonin as a child, and then it really dives down. By the time you're in your 60s, it's like you got almost nothing, right? So if you look at the average heart rate variability, it's a very similar graph. If you compare, in fact, in my book, I put them both together, and I have a whole section talking about this very subject. But to me, I almost wonder if the melatonin might be the variable there. And obviously, I don't have any concrete proof, but I can tell you that when people see my heart rate variability scores, they can't believe it. I mean, I get sometimes 70, 75, and I'm 51.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed. I think so I've been wearing my Whoop for a couple months now, so it has a really good indicator on who I am, and I'm very familiar with my body according to that data. And my HRV was on average 55, like just across the board. That's I kind of vary around there. But I remember, was it the first night that I took the suppository? It went up to 122 the next day, and that was the highest I've ever seen it go. But now consistently my HRV is 75 average, so up 20 points more than what I was the last 5 months of my life,
just by putting something in your butt. Cool.
And for those that are kind of squirming and they're
yeah.
You don't have to put anything in your butt to take Sandman and to do even high dose melatonin. But I will tell you, regular oral melatonin is only 2.5% absorbed.
Well, if 2.5% absorption is enough for you when taking melatonin orally, that is fine. At least you would have a little antioxidant protection, and it is certainly better than nothing. But don't expect any wonders. Your pineal gland will not be activated, and that is where the magic comes from. We want a slow absorption of a high dosage of melatonin, the slower the better, because we want to activate the pineal gland as long as possible. And this is done by a suppository or a transdermal patch only. As we know, melatonin is prolonging life. It is in every cell of your body, as well as every animal has it, and plants too. And plants activate it when there is a real danger, like flooding or a drought. We as humans don't need it for floodings and droughts. We need it to fight off hundreds of diseases that have its origins in our lifestyle and which are a consequence of our modern life. A final word, what Dr. Edinger says about this. It is too good to be true. Normally the pineal gland controls the entire brain. There are studies made by Pierre Pauli. He planted the pineal gland of an old mouse into a young mouse and the pineal gland of a young mouse into an old mouse. The result was, usually the average mouse has a lifespan of 700 days. So the young mouse with the old pineal gland died already after 500 days, and the old mouse with the young pineal gland lived over 1000 days. If we calculate this with a special computer program, based on what we know what is happening when 300 milligrams melatonin is given daily, then we can assume that a person who usually would die at 75 years old could gain another 35 years in lifespan, only by making his pineal gland function again.